Up here, Will, I did want to take a moment to say that we lost a very good journalist, Robert Fisk. He was, I believe, 74 years old and passed away from a stroke that he had within the past week or two. Robert Fisk, I believe, ended up in Lebanon in the 80s as a war reporter and was just kind of known for, being willing to stand in the middle of it and do some great war reporting. Has just done great work over the years with that and putting himself in very dangerous situations. Robert Fisk was somebody who reported on the Lebanon Civil War, which may be the most horrific thing that's happened on the planet in the past, I don't know, several decades, as far as not just the number of people that died, because obviously there's cases where there's been more, but the brutality and the personal way in which it was done, how these ethnic groups, the Sunnis, the Shias, the Christians, and everybody else, all the other different groups in Lebanon, dehumanized each other and treated even the children of opposing groups as, like, potential future, monsters that you had to kill. And so, this is somebody who saw what war really was in its state, and for that reason was very opposed to it. Most recently, and probably what me and you have talked about, and where we brought his name up on the show, Will, has been reporting from Syria, and specifically reporting about the chemical weapons attack in Duma, where
That's right. Yeah.
in the hours, after some major fighting around Duma, Syrian government airstrikes, the narrative came out that they had dropped chlorine gas on the city, and it was Robert Fisk who initially reported to slow down on that story. Might not be true. Turns out that the doctors that were on site reported that they had no idea what was going on. People started showing up to the hospital choking a little bit. Somebody started chanting gas, 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 and so they started
Yeah.
treating
Yeah.
for a gas attack, because it's just dousing people with water. That's what you do. And it was his reporting that really should have, like, taken center stage in the hashtag resistance movement, and drawn attention to the fact that Trump committed war crimes by carrying out strikes against the Syrian state based on lies. But none of that ever got reported. And then I have this thing here from the Washington Post obituary. Robert Fisk, comma, daring but controversial British war correspondent and author, comma, dies at 74. And so I thought it was pretty unfair, Will, with, in his obituary headline, going with daring but controversial for his uh, record. Obviously, they're if you're a war reporter, you're going to report controversies, and obviously he put himself in the middle of it and interviewed people, including Osama bin Laden, prior to 9/11. And so maybe there's some room for controversy, but it seems like maybe this is a kind of off the rails type of guy. Not as even the own Washington Post article mentions, for anybody who bothers to read it, a few paragraphs in, that he's the most awarded British journalist, alive, of his era. And so that's really saying something. There's a great write up at the Independent where Robert Fisk wrote, along with Patrick Coburn, by Patrick Coburn. It's also republished at uns.com for anybody who can't get around the independent paywall. And there, Patrick Coburn writes about the heroics of Robert Fisk, and why he is just such an important journalist. But then, for those people looking at the video here, you'll notice I also have up the Washington Post headline for the obituary of Bakr al Baghdadi, of course, leader of ISIS, where they call him an austere religious scholar at the helm of the Islamic State. And so, Will, isn't it just obvious that there are some people who are backed by the U.S. government regime change operations, and there are some people who try to report on the truth of it? And when you try to report on the truth, that at best you get daring but controversial. You don't get maybe legendary but controversial would have been a more accurate way to describe it, seeing how many awards he won and stuff like that. So I don't know. I felt like the Washington Post could have done a better job to honor such a amazing war correspondent.
Yeah, I don't know. They seem to have felt it more important to not offend like some murderous, the guy who headed up a death squad, basically, about Baghdadi. He's an austere religious scholar. That sounds fairly positive, austere religious scholar. It sounds like he really sticks to what he believes or whatever, instead of like murderous psychopath, like apocalyptic gangster, something like, they could have come up with a better adjective. But yeah, Fisk is daring but controversial. That is outrageous. But I think you did a great job attributing to Fisk. It's really unfortunate. We've lost quite a few great people this year, man. We've lost Stephen Cohen's gone, Fisk. We have Kevin Zeese. Bob Perry, I think, passed before 2020, but nonetheless, we've lost quite a few like really essential, excellent people, and that is unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, there are still good journalists out there, but who knows if we'll have another, real Robert Fisk or Stephen Cohen or Bob Perry, especially, and Kevin
Yeah.
Zeese with his activism work too. But people who really have gone out there and put themselves in real danger to find out the truth about stories and stuff is huge. And what those are the people who should be, you know, obviously given awards, but also at least a fair treatment by the media, not this kind of discouraging way to describe him in his obituary. But Will, we should wrap up and just mention that people could find you on Twitter at the Will Porter. I'm on Twitter at Kyle Anzalone _. Con _interest is the Twitter handle.